December 29th, 1916, St. Petersburg, Russia. It is past midnight, and 4 Russian noblemen are standing over a body that refuses to stay dead. They had poisoned him. Cyanide in the wine, cyanide in the cakes. Enough to kill 5 grown men in minutes. He ate the cakes. He drank the wine, and he asked for more. So they shot him, once, through the chest, at point-blank range. He fell. They celebrated, and then his eyes opened. He lunged for the man who had pulled the trigger. They shot him again, and again. They beat him until they could no longer recognize his face. And now, as they drag what is left of him toward the frozen Neva River, one of them will later swear to his grave that the body moved. This is the story of Grigori Rasputin, the peasant who could not be killed, the mystic who held an empire in his hands, and the man whose murder would bring down a dynasty that had ruled for 300 years. To understand how a man becomes impossible to kill, you have to understand where he came from. Grigori Rasputin was born in 1869 in a village called Pokrovskoye, a village so small and so remote. It barely existed on the maps of the Russian Empire. He was the son of a peasant farmer. He was illiterate. He had no money, no education, no future, by every measure that mattered in 19th century Russia. Rasputin was nobody, but something happened to him when he was a child. His younger brother fell through ice into a freezing river. Young Grigori jumped in to save him. He pulled his brother out, but both boys had been in the water too long. His brother died. Rasputin survived, but his family said he was never the same after that. He began to claim he could see things others could not, that he could heal animals by touching them, that God spoke to him. For most of his early life, this meant nothing. He married a local woman at 18. They had children. He was a farmer, a drunk, a petty criminal. And then, at the age of 28, something changed. Rasputin abandoned his family. He left his wife, his children, his village, and he walked, for months, for years, across thousands of miles of Russian wilderness, on foot, as a wanderer, as a holy man. He visited monasteries. He prayed in caves. He memorized scripture by listening, because some scholars believe he never truly learned to read at all. And by the time he arrived in St. Petersburg in 1903, he was no longer a peasant. He was a man with eyes that, witnesses said, made you forget what you were saying. And in a city full of bored aristocrats obsessed with the supernatural, that was a very dangerous gift. The Russia that Rasputin walked into was a Russia in crisis. Tsar Nicholas II sat on the throne. A kind man, a gentle man, a fundamentally weak man, who had inherited an empire he was completely unsuited to rule. His wife, the Empress Alexandra, was a German princess who had grown up in Queen Victoria's court. And she had brought with her a hidden and devastating gift: hemophilia. The royal couple had 4 daughters. And then in 1904, finally, a son, an heir, Alexei. Within months, they realized something was terribly wrong. The boy bruised at the slightest touch. A small cut would not stop bleeding. The future Tsar of Russia was a child who could die from falling out of bed. The doctors of Russia, the best doctors in Europe, were useless. There was no treatment. There was no cure. Empress Alexandra was desperate. She had heard rumors of a holy man, a wandering mystic from Siberia who could heal the sick by prayer. In November of 1905, Rasputin was introduced to the royal family. In 1912, the young Alexei suffered a hemorrhage so severe, his parents were told he would die within hours. The Empress sent a telegram to Rasputin, who was thousands of miles away in Siberia. His response was a single line: "The little one will not die. Do not allow the doctors to bother him too much." The next morning, against every medical expectation, the bleeding stopped. The boy lived. Modern historians have theories. Perhaps Rasputin knew the doctors were giving Alexei aspirin, a blood thinner making things worse. Perhaps it was hypnosis. Perhaps calm alone was enough. But to Empress Alexandra, a desperate mother who had just watched her child rise from his deathbed, there was no question. This man was a saint, a prophet, a messenger of God. And from that moment forward, she would do anything Rasputin asked. By 1915, with the Tsar away at the front, Rasputin and the Empress were effectively running the Russian Empire. A Siberian peasant who could not read, and a German-born woman the Russian people had begun to despise. This could not last. By 1916, Russia was dying. 2 million soldiers killed on the Eastern Front. Cities starving. The economy collapsed. And the Russian people, desperate, furious, grieving, needed someone to blame. They found him. The rumors spread like wildfire. Rasputin was sleeping with the Empress. Rasputin was a German spy. Rasputin had bewitched the royal family. Rasputin was the devil himself, sent to destroy Russia from within. Most of it was lies, but some of it was not. Rasputin did drink heavily. He did visit brothels. Police surveillance confirmed it. Him appearing drunk in public, boasting about his power over the Empress, behaving in ways no holy man should behave. The Russian aristocracy turned on him. The military hated him. The Russian Orthodox Church denounced him as a fraud. The newspapers called him a sorcerer, a traitor, a monster. And every night, in the Tsarina's bedroom, Alexandra defended him, insisted he was misunderstood, that his enemies were Russia's enemies, that without Rasputin, their son would die. By December of 1916, the conspiracy was already in motion. Russia was burning, and every powerful man in St. Petersburg had decided that this unwashed peasant from Siberia was the reason why. He had to die. The plan came from one of the wealthiest men in all of Russia, Prince Felix Yusupov, 29 years old, married to the Tsar's niece, educated at Oxford, and utterly convinced that killing Rasputin was the only way to save the empire. He invited Rasputin to his palace. The night of December 29th, the story was that Yusupov's beautiful young wife wanted to meet the famous holy man. Rasputin, vain, lonely, drawn to women, accepted. He arrived just after midnight. Yusupov led him to a basement room. There were cakes on a plate, wine in glasses, Madeira, Rasputin's favorite. The cakes had been laced with potassium cyanide. Enough poison, the chemist had insisted, to kill 5 men instantly. Rasputin ate the first cake. He ate the second. He drank the wine. He asked for more. He drank that, too, and nothing happened. The conspirators panicked. Yusupov ran down with a revolver. Rasputin was admiring a crucifix on the wall. Yusupov shot him in the back. At point-blank range, Rasputin fell. The men rushed in. No pulse, no breath. They celebrated. They had done it. They had saved Russia. And then Rasputin opened his eyes. He grabbed Yusupov by the throat. He hissed his name. He began to crawl on all fours, up the stairs, out into the courtyard, into the snow. The conspirators followed in horror. One of them fired 4 more shots into his back. He fell again. They beat him. They wrapped him in a curtain. They tied him with ropes. They drove through the frozen streets and threw him into a hole cut through the ice of the Neva River. 2 days later, his body was pulled from the water. The autopsy revealed something that has haunted historians for over 100 years. There was water in his lungs. Rasputin had been alive when they threw him into the ice. He drowned. For nearly a century, the world accepted the official story. 4 Russian nobles, acting alone, out of patriotic duty. But in the 1990s, declassified British intelligence files began to tell a different story. His name was Oswald Rayner, a British officer, an MI6 agent, educated at Oxford, where he had become close friends with a young Russian aristocrat, Felix Yusupov. In 1916, Rayner was stationed in St. Petersburg. His job, officially, was diplomatic. Unofficially, he was a spy. And on the night of December 29th, he was at the Moika Palace. In 2004, a former British police commander reviewed the autopsy photographs of Rasputin's body. What he found was strange. 3 bullet wounds. 2 from a Russian-made pistol, consistent with the conspirators' weapons. But the 3rd, the one in the center of Rasputin's forehead, the one that had killed him, was different. The wound pattern matched a British-made revolver, a Webley, standard issue for British intelligence officers. Why would Britain want Rasputin dead? The answer is geopolitics. By 1916, Rasputin was pushing the Tsar to make peace with Germany, to pull Russia out of the First World War. For Britain, fighting a war it was not winning. This would have been catastrophic. If Russia withdrew, Germany could flood the Western Front with millions of soldiers. Britain might lose the entire war. Rasputin was a threat to the British Empire, and the British Empire quietly, deniably, eliminated him. A peasant from Siberia who had survived poison and 4 bullets finally met the one thing he could not survive: a British spy. 3 months after Rasputin's body was pulled from the river, Tsar Nicholas II abdicated the throne. The Russian Revolution began. In July of 1918, Nicholas, Alexandra, and all 5 of their children, including the boy Rasputin had once seemed to save, were taken into a basement in the city of Yekaterinburg. And they were shot. Rasputin had warned them. In a letter written before his death, addressed to the Tsarina, Rasputin had written, "If I am killed by common assassins, and especially by my brothers, the Russian peasants, you, Tsar of Russia, have nothing to fear. But if I am murdered by nobles, and they shed my blood, your family will not survive more than 2 years. They will all be killed by the Russian people." Rasputin was killed by a prince. The Romanovs lasted 19 months. Whether Grigori Rasputin was a saint, a fraud, a charlatan, a prophet, or something the world had simply never seen before, and may never see again. He was right.